off my personal page right now. I'll be streaming off of other pages eventually. We want to welcome part two of this lesson. I think this is a critical topic and a very timely topic in the framework of our congregation here, and I think in most people that are going to churches and a part of communities around the United States and world. So those that are watching online, welcome to participate. I do my best to try and pay attention to both. Hold on just a little while longer, won't you hold on? Just a little while longer, won't you hold on? Just a little while longer, everything is gonna be alright. Love on. Love on, just a little while longer, won't you love on? Just a little while longer, won't you love on? Just a little while longer, everything is gonna be alright. March on. March on, just a little while longer, won't you march on? Just a little while longer, won't you march on? Just a little while longer, everything is gonna be alright. Ooh it out. Ooh. Ooh it out. Someone has a timer on their phone. We can set a timer for 25 minutes. So make sure I don't go over my 30. Maybe give me a 5-minute warning, wait 20 minutes. One of the key things that we're talking about is how do we build a spiritual community? Now, church is technically organically a spiritual community, but within itself, a church is not just a spiritual community because we put the title of a church on it. The bigger picture here is that we have some clear guidelines of how we can build a community through scripture and through physical examples in our personal history and the power that we have seen when people gather together to support each other. We're going to be reading several scriptures, so if you have a pen or a cell phone out to look these up, that will help things go quicker. We want to start with Romans 12 and 3, and we're going to go through 13. Romans 12 and 3, we're going to go through 13. All right, Lisa, you have that one. Next one is 1 Thessalonians 5 and 14. Thank you. The third one is Matthews 5 and 13. We're going to be reading through 16. All right, Joshua. The last one we probably have time for today is going to be 1 Corinthians 12 and 25 through 27. 1 Corinthians 12, 25 through 27. 1 Corinthians 12, 25 through 27. 25 through 27. All right. We're going to jump into it. A couple of big things are important, and that is we've heard the word community thrown around a lot. This is something that we say, I want a community. And oftentimes you hear leaders of schools say, we have to build a community spirit. And you might even have something called a community center. But what I want to kind of touch on today is how challenging it can be to be in community. One of the first things I want to mention is that in the context we're talking about today, it's a song that we sing, I've enlisted in the service till I die. You guys know that song? We can find that song and we can sort of read the scriptures to it or read the verses to it. I'm not sure what number it is. If you find that number, but I've enlisted in the service till I die. I will fight the devil basically until you die. Well, one of the most effective ways for us to impact the evil enemy is for us to be able to be in unity. I remember growing up as a child, I was obsessed with war and planes. It just kind of blew my mind. But one thing I noticed in my study as a child, as a young man, I might have been like 10 or 11, and I always remember it was a movie came out called The Mighty Ducks, and there was a part when the game got really intense, they would get into a shape of the ducks that fly, and they would go in a V shape, and they would knock the opponents over and make a score. It was like the music would start, and they would get in a certain pattern, and it's like, oh, as a kid. And oftentimes I would also admire combat pilots when they went to attack a ship or something, they would be in a certain formation. And I always was like, why are they in formation? And I was talking to someone that was in the military, and I said, the reason why planes fly in formations, and certain formations mean different things, is because when they all start shooting as a collective group, they can do maximum amount of damage because they're in a proper formation. They aren't just scattered abroad. And that really impacted me as a young man because I think that parallels to building up a spiritual community. If we are in unity, if we are kind of making our community tight, as we fight oppression, as we fight the enemy, as we fight things that are going wrong in our community, if we are in formation spiritually, when we fire our prayers at a given problem, the power is massive. Yes. He found it? 2 points for you. Can you read the first verse for us?
I am fighting in the army of the Lord.
Yes.
And though dangers thickly round my pathway lie,
yes,
I shall never faint or fear, for my Jesus is so near.
Yes.
I've enlisted in the service till I die.
I just want to pause. This is kind of iconic for me in childhood growing up. My dad used to sing this song. We used to drive from LA, and he had this old 57 Chevy. He would drive, and it had no radio, barely had a heater in it, and he would get sleepy. And he would sing this song as he get sleepy. And when my dad get sleepy, he would kind of nod his head when he would drive, and he would sing this song. Listen in the service, he just kind of go down the road. He kind of stay awake that way. But what was powerful is that he wasn't just singing it to stay awake, right? He believed it. He enlisted in the service of serving us as a community, as a pastor, and enlisted in the service of his spiritual practice until he died. And so it's one thing to understand, what does it look like to be in formation? What does it look like to be in a spiritual community that's in symbolic formation? What does that look like? I think back a little bit on our history, and I think part of it is the ability for us to show up for each other. And I don't mean just church, but to show up for each other as a lifestyle. I think what that means ultimately is that I remember there was a period of time where we were lacking basic needs. And there were key individuals in our community that stood in the gap and that said, you need a towel? Here's a towel. You need water? Here we get access to water. You need shelter? Here's an opportunity for shelter. And that held our family over those hard times so that we could have resource enough to make it to that next experience. They were in formation. I think about the experience when I was in a car accident on Phelan Road and the car caught on fire, or actually the dirt bike that hit us, or motorcycle that hit us caught on fire. I thought the car was on fire. The car should have been on fire. And I was trying to get out, and Travis refusing to get out of the car until I got unbuckled and can get out myself as well. He was already unbuckled, doors open, he could have got out. But I feel like there was a commitment he had to have for me well before that day. We have to be committed to the process of building a spiritual community. It doesn't start the moment emergency hits. We have to be flying spiritual information early. Early. If you're raising children, I remember I done something appropriate to my sibling. I was fighting and hustling. I was hitting her. I was hitting my sister. And my mom said, no, it's not going to happen. I was young. I don't know how old I was. Apple Valley House, probably like 10. It's just not going to happen. Do not. I probably was. How I was like 8, 5.
If you were 12 and Apple Valley?
Oh, yeah, because you were in middle school. You're right. Yeah, I hit my sister. And my mom solved it. I remember repeating over, you will not ever lay your hand on your sister again in life. And it was important because my mom was making sure I got it clear in my mind to be in unity with my siblings. I can come prancing in the front door. Where's your sister? I don't know. I just got back from school. Well, you ain't home yet. We got to be accountable for each other. From as early as I can remember, my mom said, take care of Lilia. And everyone had their own responsibility, older sibling, younger sibling, all the way down. And of course, we all got along with each other eventually, but the idea is that when I went to high school and Lily was in high school with me, take care of her. I went to middle school, Quail Valley, the first year that me and Lily were together to make sure we looked out for each other. It starts early. It doesn't start now as an adult. I love my sister's death today. All my siblings get along with. But that didn't start today. That started when we were very young and Mom made a commitment that we were going to be in formation spiritually first. So we're talking about building a spiritual community here. We have to start today for the trials that are coming in front of us. I want to get to our scripture. Who has our first scripture? Lisa, go ahead.
For I say through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith.
I want to pause. I want to bring out one really key point is think of yourself too highly of yourself. That breaks formation. If we are going to have an impact on the community, we cannot have our egos and our thoughts of ourselves to be too high. It'll come up as a theme in scripture after scripture to not think of yourselves too highly. We live in a celebrity culture. And it always kind of blew my mind because I think back of these uncontacted communities. There's several documentaries about these uncontacted communities. And it's always important to me that when they go into these communities that have not been touched for tens of thousands of years, for eons, it seems like, and there's no celebrities in these communities, villages. They're all, anyone could walk by. Denzel Washington, the President of the United States, they're just hunting. They're just doing their thing. That means nothing to them. It doesn't mean anything to them. But to us, we have this idea of celebrityism. Oh my goodness, isn't that so-and-so from so-and-so? This idea of specialness. But in the community keeping formation, we want to make sure that we don't think too highly of ourselves, that we can start to kind of unpack our hearts and minds from the idea of someone being more important than the other. Continue on.
For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office,
Yes.
so we, being many, are one body in Christ, and every one members one of another.
Yes.
Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us,
Yes.
whether prophecy,
Yes.
let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith,
Yes.
or ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Let us wait on our ministering, or he that that teacheth on teaching.
Yes.
Or he that exhorteth on exhortation. He that giveth, let him do it with simplicity.
Yeah.
He that ruleth with diligence. He that sheweth mercy with cheerfulness.
Yes.
Let love be without dissimulation.
Stop.
Abhor that which is evil.
Yes.
Cleave to that which is good.
Yes.
Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love.
Mm-hmm.
In honor, preferring one another.
Yes.
Not slothful in business.
Mm-hmm.
Fervent in spirit.
Yes.
Serving the Lord.
Yes.
Rejoicing in hope.
Mm-hmm.
Patient in tribulation.
I want to pause. That's a really critical one. All of them are critical, but I'm going to stop on this one. Says patience in what?
Tribulation.
That's a hard place to be patient, right? Patient in tribulations. Do we understand what that's talking about? Tribulations? I think to me, that's one of the most impatient times sometimes in the struggle, is in tribulation. Being patient when things are struggling, when your finances are almost done, when your Edison bill is on a flicker, right? When your gas tank's on the empty, that we're patient in tribulation. When someone's banging on the door, when you feel like you don't have much time left on earth, to be patient in tribulation, right? Because if we're a community, we can't just be a community when things are going well. The true test of a community is when things are in tribulation. And it's not that we just bear and hold it, but it's that we are patient with this experience. That we take the time to be patient. Because oftentimes the song that Louis sings says, what? The darkest hour means dawn is just in sight, right? Hold on, my child, right? I love that song because she sang it for years. She sang it every time. But as you get older, it starts to sink into your bones, if I can use that example. You start to understand when you're in a situation, you're not sure if you're going to make it. It's called tribulations. I want us to remember as a community to be patient. To be patient. I feel like patience, this is Aaron speaking now, it's not really scripture, but it's a cousin to it, is a cousin to peace. If you are patient, you have an inner peace. It's so hard to be patient if you don't have an inner peace. You follow my logic here? So as we're building our community, we understand that we are going to have tests. We've already had tests. We've already had some tribulations. And we have to be patient in that work. Yes.
What is dissimulation?
Alicia, dissimulation. What's the room definition of dissimulation? It's old scripture words.
Well, it's that conflict going behind somebody's back.
Yeah. Deceit. Like
right. And so you're just like, well, it kind of like, I'm thinking of, an example. Because I'm in school,
Yeah.
School example work. But I think it's something we can all still relate to. When there's the students, they could be male or female, they're going behind somebody's back up.
mm-hmm.
Oh, and then they start somebody fighting, and then they go behind somebody, and that is a community, which would be
Yes.
students, and then going behind somebody, like, well, that's one group, okay? It can happen in families, it can happen in churches.
Mm-hmm.
That's dissimulation.
Yes.
Right. Am I on the right track, Pastor?
Yeah, dissimulation. And also if you're online, you can look this up on the internet, and
Right.
then there's posted real fast a formal definition of dissimulation as we may be using it. That'll be a great asset.
Pastor, did I get it right?
Hypocrisy.
Yes.
Now that fixed it.
Concealing your true thoughts and
Yes.
feelings, or putting forth something that's disruptive and disturbing.
Exactly.
And so, right.
Yeah.
And my mother had given a story, shared it. I think I can share it with no names. There was a situation where somebody was coming and said, "I want to take a picture," and it was our pastor and another gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
And so it might seem to say, "Oh, I'm gonna take a picture," but then somebody takes that picture and then takes that picture and says, oh, this is what was happening with that picture. Well, the gentleman who was present said, no, that picture is not going to be taken.
Yeah.
No, do not take that picture.
Yeah.
And Pastor Ella said, no. She didn't say anything, but she didn't encourage the situation. But pictures, so this is a situation where it's not children, but adults, you manipulate a picture or say something about a picture or a picture with a caption, and because we have social media, distribute it.
This was before social media.
This was before social media.
But this particular gentleman was one of the very, 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 very few black FFA teachers in the country. And I was invited up to that special, $1 million box. And so they saw him. He just came over and spoke to me. Nothing else. They never met, and he was gracious enough to speak to me. So let's take this picture. Oh boy, like this is going to be juicy. And he just stopped and said, no, this picture's not happening. And I agreed with him. But the intent was to dissimulate, to take the picture and pass it out like this is what he was doing at the conference. And there was nothing he was doing. But they wanted to create, what is the word? Not drama, it's beyond drama. But,
dissimulation.
Yeah.
So to make this in simpler words, it's like basically trying to intentionally start problems by spreading rumors.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Okay.
And it can happen in any place. Basically, the most amount of people that needs to be present are two. Can be dissimulation between two people.
Yeah.
And somebody's saying something behind, not even necessarily behind one's back, but something that intentionally tries to disrupt what's going on. Right. And so it can occur at every level. Like we have a group here, and if somebody can say or do something to create dissimulation, and so it says without dissimulation, God's putting a rebuke on that. Right.
And what he's putting a rebuke on, not just what it looks like, but your spirit.
Right, the spirit that you're in.
Exactly. Great.
Thank you for asking.
All right, let's move on to the next scripture.
That's fine.
All right.
There was one
Oh,
more
please finish yours.
verse.
Yes.
Continuing instant in prayer, distributing to the necessities of saints, given to hospitality.
Yes. So as we are patient in our tribulations, we are doing lots of actions in our love space on being loving towards each other. We're all supposed to be good at hospitality. These aren't things that we take lightly. To allow people to come in and feel welcome, and to make sure we understand what that looks like and feels like according to their culture and their trauma story. To be conscious of that and let God guide us. Yes.
When someone does something within your community, it can be intentional or non-intentional, that you feel you're stimulated and you're having a hard time being loving and you're having a hard time being in that space. Within a community, is it better to just like walk away until you feel like you can be loving in that space?
I mean, it depends on the options, but I would separate myself from the environment. If you're not feeling like you have the grace on hand to be in a room with someone, leaving is definitely a okay thing to do. Now, I will also say that when you're dealing with a child, it's really critical that if you're the parent or the guardian or one responsible, isolating that child, not a good idea. Find a way to be present with that child is critical. I'm not saying you should attack the child emotionally because you're overwhelmed, but making sure that child, someone have attention for that child, because isolation can be very traumatizing as well. So just want to make sure that's always considered amongst some other kind of special circumstances. But generally speaking, with other adults, exit the room. That's a two-way. Exactly. So in situations we get unique. You're stuck. You're in a spot where either you're in a car, a long trip, a plane, places where you can't be exiting. I think one of the critical things is this is where you want to make sure you have your connection with your spiritual practice. You can't be like a Sunday service kind of a person. Only you have to have a daily activity. This is when you can call. I think Nicole Simone played this song. Mommy played this song like every day. When I call on Jesus, all things are possible, right? Yeah, all things are possible. And that is one of the key things. Thank you, Portia. That's one of the key things that we have when it comes to when you're stuck in those spots. You must call on that higher power. And that's why we have a practice daily with our spiritual practice, so that we get in a situation we can't run. You can't run. Paul and Silas were stuck inside of a prison. They were shackled, right?
Yes.
They couldn't run if they wanted to. And so what did they do? Started praising. They started praising. They started using the tool around them to contradict the pain, the suffering, the entrapment they were in.
So do you think the Lord allowed that to build that part of your spiritual walk?
Remember, the scripture tells us He won't give us anything that we can't handle. And through trials and tribulations,
When God says that, He has inherent with it a promise.
exactly. So that's the structure we're in.
Short answer would be yes.
Yes, but I wanted to use scripture to make sure we understood that yes wasn't just me going, yeah. It was scriptures that tell us that when we are in those situations, we can use those trials to bring us to a better place. We can't grow, right? We can't grow with no friction. It's like getting clean with no friction. That don't happen. To get dirt off, you got to scrub it. You got to get in there and scrub it. That's how it comes off. All right, let's move on. Romans 12 and 3 through 13.
That was me. I just did that.
Oh, that was you. Oh, go ahead. Thessalonians 5 and 14.
You said First Thessalonians 5 and what?
1 Thessalonians 5 and 14.
Now we exhort you, brethren,
Mm-hmm.
warn them that are unruly,
Mm-hmm.
comfort the feeble-minded,
Mm-hmm.
support the weak,
Mm-hmm.
be patient toward all men.
Did it say be patient towards some men? Some women? It said patient towards some? Is that what it said? All. In building community, when we're in formation, we are patient with who? Man, this Bible is so inclusive, I tell you. Because sometimes don't we want to pick it apart? Because I've seen people, and I don't know about you guys have been in a situation. Have you ever walked into the room and the person said nothing, you looked at them, you got annoyed, you're like, oh, this is not a good day. You just looked at the look on their face, just looking at you. They might be the nicest person there, but you just got annoyed at the look on their face, just their presence. Right? Then all of a sudden I'm on edge. It's like, oh, I'm in trouble. This is going to be a long day, right? This is not going to be a good experience. And it might not be a good experience, but it says be patient with what?
All men.
We're building a formation here. This is not really what's about what makes us feel comfortable individually. This is really about us as a community to be patient with all men. Now, we've been blessed to go to the federal prison here, here in Adelanto. It's like 7,000 inmates in each facility or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but something close to that. And talk about federal crimes, like about some pretty extreme stuff. And it's a couple things that are always disturbing you going to a federal prison. And one that got me the first time I went in there is all the closing doors. You know, by the first one, it's like, okay, but by the fifth one, it's like I can't get out quickly if I wanted to. The third thing is how clean it is. The federal prison is extremely clean. The cement is clean. The clothes are folded well. And there's this really kind of cleanliness that makes you feel very uncomfortable. And I think that one of the third things that's significant, too, I think, is that you see senior citizens in there. Older men that look kind, look sweet. 25. And so for me, I think that it's really critical also to see men that look like you. Like they could be your brother or your friend. They look familiar. They almost feel familiar. And so when we're singing in these communities, we were in prison singing, this feeling of being patient with all men sometimes helped us understand that no matter if you're in a federal prison, here in the church, down the street, in a parking lot with the person that is challenged with their shelter, that we can be patient with all men as a community, all men and women in our community. Yes.
So I heard this phrase, and I was curious if like people hear these like spiritual concepts and say like patience is earned, it's not given.
Oh, patience is earned,
It's not given.
not given. It says patience?
Yeah, patience is earned. Not given.
Patience is earned, not given?
Like in other words, I had a friend who like would crack jokes and they're like, I don't pray for patience because I got trials what
Yeah,
people are
yeah.
saying, and they're saying like it's earned. It's not
Yeah,
earned.
I can't agree with you more. I definitely think that, and this is going outside the biblical structure here, but I think it accurately said, we have to earn all of our spiritual gifts. I think that, the idea of a gift being given has to be worked to be kept, right? So I think it's really important that if God gives you a gift of singing and you sing beautifully, but then you don't work to keep it, it slips away. God might give you a gift, but you have to work to keep it. And I think for us, we have to really understand that patience is a gift, and we definitely got to work to keep it. We definitely got to have attention for that process, because we got to understand biblically here, Jesus was hung on a cross. They were torturing him. And he said, forgive them. They know not what they do. That's a model and example of sometimes, especially as people of color, and we deal with this challenge a lot, sometimes you are being tortured. But you have to have a patience, not in surrender to the torture, but a patience to understand you're in this for a lifetime. That you have the grace and the power to withstand any evil energy that comes against you. And so in the spirit of what we're talking about here in building community, and we're at our time right now, is that we have to be committed to be enlisted in this process of building a strong community, of being patient with each other, of understanding God has given us that we should be patient in tribulations. And we shouldn't think too highly of ourselves. As a body of a church, we all have a role. Not the minister, not me as a teacher, not anyone else is more important than anyone else. A soul is a soul is a soul. Yes, Portia.
I have one last question around like, so
Sure.
I think sometimes like people use pride and confidence.
Uh-huh.
And so like I'm curious is like if pride involves looking down on someone, whereas confidence doesn't, like how do you decipher the difference?
Well, I think it's the heart of the matter, right? I think when you come up pride is a carnal, if I can use this biblical word, a carnal effort of saying, I am running this race to let people see me. That's all I care about. Is when the audience is cheering you on, you're like, yeah, I'm running, right? And then you go out on the course and get out in the kind of middle of nowhere, you start walking because there ain't no one there. That's just pride, right? Because there ain't no one looking. But when we talk about the other one, is the opposite of confidence. That's running with confidence. Ain't no one there. Guess what? Because you ain't running for them. You're running for a much higher calling. It's not the audience. It's not earthly. It's not reachable. It's something that's much deeper than that, much more valuable. So confidence can be described and divided by why and who inspires us to do so. This concludes our lesson for today. Thank you all those that watched either partially online, all this entire lesson, or whatever part you partake in this topic. This is part 2. We have 2 more parts of this topic that we're going through for the rest of this month. We thank you for your. I had several questions I wanted to ask you all, but we're out of time. So let us take this with us home. Hopefully we continue to build a community here in the Baldy Mesa that we're able to take advantage of this community, take advantage of the work that we're doing here and not give up at any cost to lose formation. Thank you.